What's up, party people? You're back here with Steven Shea again to learn more about how we pulled off ISLA MONSTRO. Who writes this crap? In this week's segment, we're going to talk about writing. Step number 1, be a really good writer. If you're not a really good writer, quit right now. So I decided to try to build a concept that is something that I would really want to see in a movie. Things I love: island, Caribbean life, mutants and monsters, horror, sci-fi, comedy, hating the American government gets pushed in there a little bit. So when developing this project, the funniest person that I know is comedian James Schrader.
So to start with, Steven and I, when we get together, we're laughing nonstop.
James and I had written projects together before, so I knew I was going to work really, really well with them. Plus, James was voted the funniest person in San Diego.
Steven and I have known each other since high school, and we grew up in the Florida Keys, which is a string of tropical islands. So with Duke kind of showing up on this island and turning it into a resort, that's the town we grew up in. And oddly enough, yes, ISLA MONSTRO is full of mutants. Well, the Keys people, it's a different kind of people. It's not like anywhere else. And I say that with love, but also just recognizing that people are just different. Time is different, everything's different.
So how we put this script together is lots of phone calls, Zoom sessions. James is based in San Diego, I'm based in Los Angeles. So we would go back and forth until we get the story to a point that we were happy with. I took the first draft.
Then Steven came to San Diego. We locked ourselves in a room for a couple of days and wrote and kind of flushed it out.
Day 1 of ISLA MONSTRO script revisions. Canceled.
And there's the plane that I promised to get in the shot.
You can't have a music studio / writing place without an airplane.
That is true.
And went through it scene by scene, beat by beat, line by line, trying to make the script as funny as humanly possible.
Classic.
So how I like to write a script is I start with the ending. You gotta have an awesome ending. You gotta go out with a bang. And then I have the beginning, because you gotta start off really strong. You gotta hook them in the beginning. And then you have the middle that connects these two big pieces together. So when writing, and especially comedy, you want characters that you can connect with. So we wrote a very colorful spectrum of different characters in this movie. But the main two characters, which are Duke and Diana, those are really just two halves of myself, which made it very easy to write.
We need to talk about this.
You gotta put a bit of yourself in everything, right? So we wrote the script in final draft. We went back and forth, making notes to each other, until we finally hit the 4th draft and decided to lock from there. I have friends that have written scripts for a decade. They're constantly working on trying to get it perfect. It's gotta be perfect, it's gotta be the best, it's never good enough, this, that, and this. I always feel at some point in writing, you just have to have faith in yourself that what you wrote is good, and it's gonna be good enough for what you're trying to do.
Oh, it's radical.
So one of the things that James has access to is a comedy writer's room. He's got a handful of comedians that he trusts that can help punch up scripts. And so once we got done with it, I had to go through a script doctor friend of mine, and then James had to go through his comedy writer's room. We got a lot of alternate jokes, we got a lot of cool lines, we used some of them, we didn't use some of them, but just trying to figure out ways to make the script as funny as we possibly could before we went into reading it with the cast. So the overall process of this script probably took us about 3 to 4 months. My favorite part of the writing process is when you write something that makes someone else laugh. Every now and then we would hit a joke and then James would bust out laughing. Or he would hit a joke and I would bust out laughing. It's like having those moments where you're laughing over text on a written page. You know that's going to be funny. You know that's going to get a response from an audience. It's a really amazing moment when something that you write can get an emotional response out of someone.
Is this a prank show?
My least favorite part of writing is finding the time. It's like focusing, locking yourself down, getting it all out on paper. I'm not the kind of writer that can sit and knock a script out in 2 days. It takes me 2 to 3 months to get a full feature script written. I have a family. I have a wonderful family. I have a wife and a son who I adore, and I want to spend as much time with them as I possibly can. And so finding these moments to be able to sit down and really focus on getting that writing done, that's a big challenge for me.
If you have any family members who are still speaking to you, you might want to call them.
When writing everything, you get people to read it. You want people that you trust's input, and you'll get people that really like the kind of movies that you're making, and maybe you want somebody that doesn't like the kind of movies that you're making to read it as well, and see how their responses are. I'm not a huge firm believer in testing a lot, because I feel like everyone's gonna have a different opinion, and everyone's gonna like something specific, and dislike something specific. And if you're dealing with somebody who's not interested in what you're doing at all, well, that's not going to help you out. That's going to hurt you. After the script's written, we register with the Writers Guild. We send in for copyright, just to make sure that you're legally covered in case anybody steals your really fantastical, awesome idea. And that's Steven Shea on writing.